Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Big Apple School podcast, where the goal of this show is to help you improve your English through your listening skills. My name is Benjamin, I'm from London, and today I'm joined by three guests. Our first guest today is
Ken from the Philippines.
Our second guest
is Katya.
And last but not least,
and Ugur from Turkey.
Excellent. And today's topic is going to be visas and immigration. So let's get started with our first question. So what are some of the main reasons as to why people choose to immigrate to other countries? Why did we all immigrate to Russia? Well, maybe not Katya, but
She's a local.
Why did we immigrate to Russia? And would we call ourselves immigrants in Russia?
May I ask you a quick question first?
Please.
So when I was looking through the plan and what we were going to talk about, I noticed two words, an immigrant and an expat.
Right.
Can you first of all explain the difference between the two?
Yeah, sure. So it's actually kind of a controversial thing now because expats, well, I could technically say I'm an expat here in Russia, whereas in England, you would call people who move from other countries that are not English-speaking countries, you would call them immigrants. Expats are basically people from the English-speaking world who move to other countries. So there is some people dislike this because they feel that maybe there's some racism involved. Other people, don't really think it's that big of a deal. But yeah, there's a little debate around this subject. So basically, expats for people from the English-speaking world, immigrants from non-English-speaking world.
Really? That's rather interesting because what I found out is expat, short for expatriate, is anyone who lives and works in a country that is not of their citizenship.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
More
It is
temporarily, although it is also possible if you renounce your citizenship, you can also be referred to as an expat.
Yeah.
However, in terms of being an immigrant, it's more of on a permanent basis. Yeah.
Well, you can be an American expat in the UK, for instance.
So wait, so that means that an expat is someone who's temporarily living in another country, whereas an immigrant is someone who plans to settle down in that country and get...
I'm not actually sure if temporary or permanent status is taken into consideration here. That at least I don't feel that. Maybe there is a more official definition, but the way I've understood it to be is that, people from the English-speaking world, if they move out of their home country, then they're technically an expat. Whereas an immigrant is just someone from the non-English speaking world who moves to any other country.
Can we just use those terms interchangeably today?
Well, I guess maybe I could. Well, I would definitely call myself an expat or an immigrant in Russia. Yeah.
Isn't it? That's interesting because I see myself more as an expat, like a Filipino expat in Russia. Yeah. But I wouldn't personally consider myself an immigrant because it has this underlying meaning that I want to live here permanently. Right. Which is not the case, at least not right now.
Yeah, I want to live here. So then I'm.
We've heard about your dreams to get a Zhiguli. Buy a dacha.
So, I'm a migrant and immigrant here in Russia.
You should have been born in a different country, I think, really.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So why do people choose to immigrate to different countries? Just general reasons.
Money?
Yep, money. Yep.
Comfort zone, changing comfort zones.
Yep. What else?
Experience a different culture.
Yep.
Freedom.
Yep.
Freedom.
And climate, I'd say, for sure. Some people want to move to a warmer country. And other people...
Someone like you guys decided to
punish
move to
ourselves and decided to come to Siberia.
Well, to be honest, the summer here is actually gorgeous. It's lovely over here. So it's... Yeah. Well, as is the British... I would say Siberian summer, British summer, they're kind of similar. They're pretty muggy and hot. Yeah. So, okay. All right. Well... Can you name any famous immigrants or expats?
I would say Albert Einstein. I mean, during World War II, in order for him to escape, then he moved to America and he eventually became an American citizen.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of difficult to come up with names because sometimes you don't even know that these people are immigrants or expats or someone.
Well, America obviously is an immigrant nation. The country was formed by people migrating to the States, and that's why everyone in America has like a huge range of different last names.
Oh yeah, America is like a melting pot.
Yeah, exactly. But nowadays, I guess you wouldn't call people who live in America immigrants unless they are first generation immigrants, because people have settled and had generations living in America. Whereas back in the early 20th century, 19th century, people would come from all across the world, Italy, from China, from everywhere.
Oh, and somebody else came to my mind. If you know Nadia Comaneci, she's a Romanian gymnast. Well, obviously, from Romania and then moved to the United States. And
Well, yeah. And did she speak English before she came to America?
Well, yes, but not so well. But now, of course, she speaks very well.
Yeah.
Although you can still hear her, native Romanian accent.
Yeah. And I'm quite fascinated as to how she learnt English to a high level, because a lot of people live in America and don't even speak English, which is quite interesting.
Well, because, they surround themselves with, experts or immigrants just like them.
Their own community.
They live in this diaspora.
Yeah.
Like, if you go to Brighton Beach in New York City, it's stuck in the 90s basically, but there are a lot of people who don't even speak English. Like, you've lived in New York City for like 10, 15 years. How come?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is kind of funny.
That's why that leads us to one problem of immigration, especially, well, I don't know if we're going to touch on that now.
We're going to talk about the positives and negatives of immigration in a few minutes, actually. But Brighton Beach, so tell me more about that, because they have a Russian, Ukrainian, maybe Belarusian community out there. Can you remember?
That's basically a Soviet community.
Yeah.
So they have people from all over the ex-Soviet countries. And what is funny is that it really gives you the feeling that they're stuck in the 90s.
Yeah.
With these signs, the shop signs, the level of service is just as horrible as it was back then, And it's just so weird because they sell things that were common, in the Soviet era, stupid souvenirs or something like that, all those newspapers. And what is funny is when you come there and you see women wearing fur coats, heels, lots of gold, like golden rings, golden earrings. You're like, no, why? No, why?
Yeah. I believe it was shown in the famous film Brat 2, which... But yeah.
And you know what? It came out in 1990 something, like 1995 or something. Nothing has changed. Nothing seems to have changed in Brighton Beach since then.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
But I mean, last time I went there was about, I guess, 10 years. No, not 10 years ago, about 5 years ago. It was a real charming place. And another thing, coming back to a similar topic, is Chinatowns. You have Chinatowns in almost every major city. I love Chinatowns because... You feel like, not like you're in China, but you feel like you're almost in China. Do you have a Chinatown in Turkey, in Istanbul?
Yeah, it's kind of a little corner of the main square of Istanbul, but not that big neighborhood kind of thing. Like couple of shops, couple of food stalls kind of thing, but like 4 or 5 of them, that's it.
Yeah, I guess it's only usually in big capitals. Usually they have them. Did you see a Chinatown in Boston, Katya?
Oh yeah, I've been there on many occasions just because there are so many cool places to eat and everything. I've been to Chinatown in Seattle, Washington DC.
Yep.
So I love these places. They're very vibrant.
Yeah.
There's something about them.
Do you have a Chinatown in the Philippines?
Actually, we have, because there are a lot of Chinese nationals in my country.
Yeah.
And in Manila, we have the biggest Chinatown in the country. And actually, we go there sometimes for, cheaper shopping, depending on the item, of course. But we also love Chinese cuisine.
Yeah.
So we do have one.
Yeah.
Well, not one, but several of them.
Well, I guess, moving on to the positives and negatives of immigration. the positive sides. Well, Chinatown. I love Chinatowns everywhere. I love going to the all-you-can-eat buffets and.
When you say positive sides of immigration, do you mean for the country or for the immigrants themselves?
Yeah, you see, that's a good point because we have to see which perspective we're looking at.
It's a very, very big subject as well. It's not like all immigrants are the same.
Or we can discuss both sides. So,
well, let's just talk about in general. So, obviously, cultural vibrancy. You have Chinatowns, and you go to London. You have all sorts of restaurants and. Well, it's not just the restaurants, but yeah, mainly.
Well, I mean, a lot of countries can benefit from having immigrants because that's new workers, that's people with unique experience, and also people who are very often bilingual, at least. So, you know, and these can be professionals that are much needed in many areas.
Yeah. And sometimes, some industries need,
labor force now,
labor force, because some countries are lacking in, lacking in immigrants, or lacking in workers, excuse me. So, well, are there a lot of migrants to Turkey? I guess there are, aren't there?
Nowadays.
Nowadays.
We are suffering from that one. Most of them are not registered. So they are just trying to pass the border and try to reach the capital or Istanbul.
Are these asylum seekers, refugees, or are you talking about immigrants who are moving forward?
You know what? That's all mixed right now.
Yeah.
No one knows if they are immigrants or refugees, and they're all mixed up. And I don't think they don't even know about that by themselves. So
I've heard about a problem which was caused by this huge wave of immigration to Turkey, that now it's almost impossible to rent a place for the locals. Because I have a friend who's engaged to a Turkish man, and she says that they want to find an apartment. She says we can't because the prices just skyrocketed, like became 2-3 times more expensive.
Exactly.
So it's like, you know, this artificial sort of like skyrocketing the prices. It's
it happens because of immigrants in a way. So they try to sell or rent their houses like astronomical prices.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the points of the negative sides of immigration.
Well, we were going to move on to that, but well, what other positives? So workforce and cultural
diversity. So
well, I guess it is cool when you go to a big major city and you have a lot of
different nationalities.
It can be cool, but all right, well, let's I mean, obviously that's nice.
I think it's going to be like both a mix of positive and negative sides, you know, while we talk.
Well, okay, all right, so we were talking about the inflation of rental prices. Well, I guess this happens, to be honest, all over the world in major cities. In Manila, do you have a similar phenomena where people from, I don't know, other islands are moving?
Well, you know, the good thing about the Philippines, we're still a homogeneous country. So I don't think there are a lot of immigrants. I mean, of course, there are immigrants who come to the country because they're married to Filipinas. I mean, you know, female Filipino. Anyway, so mostly for that reason, or some of them, they want to set up their own business, so they own businesses in my country, but then they have to marry a local because if you're a foreigner, you cannot own a business and have it named after yourself. It has to be that's why you know, I know it's kind of like questionable sometimes because they would put the name of a Filipino, but then the real owner is in fact a foreigner, because to this day it's still prohibited for a foreigner to actually own a business.
So even if you have a permanent residence, if you have permanent residency in the Philippines, you can't own a business.
Well, unless you become a Filipino citizen.
Oh,
well, you know, I think it's kind of protecting local businesses.
True.
So protect. And interesting, and also, of course, you just had a new president elected.
Yes, elections.
And so I believe Sara Duterte, the daughter,
she will be the new vice president, right? And then the new president, well, Western media call him the son of a dictator, which is not true. Anyway, but I don't want to sound political, but I'm just happy that our new president will be, you know, he's open to, of course, foreigners who would like to eventually immigrate to our country. So that's good for foreigners.
I know that some countries have these sort of business visas. You know.
Well, actually, we're going to talk all about visas.
Okay.
I love visas.
I love visas.
It's also happening now in Turkey.
Yeah, a lot of people listening to this show probably want to hear a lot about visas.
Oh, there's a new type of visa these days. Oh, I can't wait.
Don't worry, we'll get to that. But
speaking of the negative sides of immigration, but not from the point of view of the place, but for the immigrants themselves, culture shocks and assimilation, it's so difficult, especially when you don't know the language of the country well, and you face these difficulties wherever you go. So, and it's very often it's just, you know, so hard and challenging that people, you know, they start to get depressed. They start to question, you know, whether they should have done this or shouldn't have done this. And especially with people who are refugees, they can't go back.
Yeah.
That's it. They've made their choice. So it's just, you know, extremely difficult sometimes to be an immigrant.
Well, Ugur, you just moved here, what was 6 months ago
6
now?
months,
I can't believe how quickly the time goes.
Time
Would you
flies.
say you've had a huge culture shock, or because you've lived in many countries, it's not so bad?
Actually, Russia is, I guess, one of the easiest one that I can adapt myself.
Oh.
Because in Turkey, we have lots of Russian citizens living in Turkey. So I'm kind of used to them in a way.
Yeah.
So the only thing that I feel myself a little bit stranded is the language barrier. So, but I'm eventually start to kind of understand what's being said, and I'm trying to say a couple of words. So it's gonna be better.
Do you find it, I mean, somewhat easy to communicate in a shop if you need something? Or, I mean, have you ever been in that situation yet where you really need something and you've tried to communicate?
No, you know, if I need something so bad and if I can't express myself, I just use my Google Translate and just, all right, can you please look at this? And all right,
The easiest way.
Yeah, that's the easiest way. So I haven't had any kind of things.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
yet.
that's all right. Well, let's come back to so positives and negatives of immigration itself. So
You know, my stance on immigration, I am more pragmatic about it. Because, immigration is good if the people that you allow to enter your country are those who are, well qualified and can contribute something great to the society, to the economy.
Who at least value being
Right.
Yeah.
And personally, I believe it should be based on merit. You cannot just come to a country and say, hey, I want to move to your country. But you have to, present something to the table because they don't want to have any burden.
That's what Canada has, doesn't it? They have the point system,
Right.
where you have to apply for it. You answer the questions
Scales.
like, are you married? What's your age? What's your experience and
Right.
everything?
Or as does the UK. Well, just after we left the European Union, it's going to a more points-based system. Well, maybe
Is it?
I believe so. that
that-
was the pledge of the government at the time.
That sounds very promising because one thing about Canada was that it was kind of easy because if you're a professional, you know that you're going to get enough points to be allowed to work there. Of course, you need to take, the IELTS exam and everything. But still, it was very clear. It was transparent. You have these many points. You don't have enough. Okay.
Sorry,
it's
next
too
time.
bad. Yeah.
Well, this is all visa stuff. We're going to move straight on to this. Yeah, we're going to...
Well, it's not really a visa as such, because then after this, you still have to apply for a visa. But at least, at the beginning, before you even try to apply for anything, you see whether you can or cannot go and work there. Because then, you have this calculator basically, and sometimes you see, okay, not enough points.
Yep.
Sorry.
What she's talking about is not exactly about visa, but the considerations for immigration, if you will be allowed or accepted.
Yeah. Well, recently, obviously, always the topic of immigration has always been a very heated subject.
Oh God, yeah.
Speaking of which, I just want to continue. Now on the other side, I think that some people who immigrate, the problem is that they are unwilling to adapt to the culture of their host country. I mean, I don't think that's fair because if you move to a country, you should be the one adapting yourself instead of the country adapting to you.
Like the saying goes, when in Rome, do as Romans do.
True.
Like that, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
And that's the problem with some immigrants is that they don't even want to learn the language, which is, if you really respect the country, you would want to learn the language. At least the basics. At the very least, right.
Yeah.
And then not just that, you try to obey the rules, the law of the country. You don't just go there and break it and say, anyway, this is not how it goes in my culture. But then again, you don't, it's not your country anymore. It's another country and you have to be able to follow the rules there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I sound very critical, but that's just the way it is.
Well, a good word for our listeners, vetting procedure. A vetting procedure means that you examine a particular individual for any discrepancies, anything that might not be positive on their side. So does the Philippines have a vetting procedure for prospective immigrants?
Well, I suppose we have, but unfortunately, I don't know
I guess
the procedure is.
Well, you're on the other side. Being a citizen, you usually don't know what the rules are for your country.
Turkey? Do you vet immigrants before they come into the country?
Nowadays, everything is completely just...
I think it's changing too fast.
So as far as I know, for a couple of months to now, they only need to show their residency in their own country.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a kind of a selection process, but I don't think that's kind of that strict process because everyone is going in Turkey right now.
Well,
without
coming back to the Brexit, when Brexit happened, one of the biggest factors behind Britain leaving the European Union was immigration and the fact that people could not be vetted if they were coming from the European Union or if they had a European Union visa. So we could not do checks on them. But now, if you come into the country illegally, you're not going to be checked anyway.
That's what I'm talking about.
But this was, basically now you can be, when you get to the border, you can be pulled aside and people will ask you a lot of questions. I remember many, many years ago, I was very lucky. I went to Canada. We had a family holiday there, but I was not on the same flight as my family. And it was a beautiful holiday. But anyway, as soon as I got off the plane, the Canadian border authorities, they pulled me aside and they said, hey, what the hell are you doing here? You've got 3 passports. This is why are you here? What are you trying to do? And I said, oh no, I'm just here on holiday with my family. And they were really grilling into me.
So, you would expect it to be easier to travel with 3 citizenships,
But
they didn't like it.
But it's rather suspicious.
But I thought it was strange because luckily, thank God, I have US citizenship.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, they're not really that suspicious of US and UK, which was really interesting. So they pulled me aside.
So it's your Brazilian passport that they...
Maybe. Yeah, but Brazilians are regarded to be some of the I think there was a study somewhere, like some of the friendliest tourists in the world.
That's good for
Brazilians.
them.
So I don't really understand that. But it was quite... To be honest, I didn't really care. I wasn't that... I thought, okay, here's the Canadian border guard. He has to do his job. He has to make sure no one's bringing drugs into the country or whatever. So I didn't really care. But some people might not like that.
Well, the thing is that with the border authorities, you also never know. I think that their checks and everything is so random.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
true.
What's your logic?
And I wonder if I don't want to say this, but I don't know if racism comes into play whenever they make their judgment. I don't know because let's be honest. Even some countries they say that they're very welcoming and accepting, but you never know what's in the mind of an individual, and they might see you like, oh, you come from
This is. I think this is what is called unconscious bias.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So even though they kind of deny like, oh no, we are not biased, and then the actions kind of tell otherwise.
Looking at the person like, and coming from this
country. Excuse me, sir. Random check.
Yes, right. You see?
To be honest, I've had so many random checks on planes.
I haven't had many, but some.
I think I've had about 4 Yeah.
Wow.
Something about you.
I don't know.
Suspicious.
Maybe. Well, I was just mentioning before the podcast I stopped drinking caffeine. Maybe because I was drinking too much caffeine and they pulled me aside.
Were you shaking uncontrollably
Maybe.
because of the caffeine?
Maybe. But okay. All right. So any other negative? Well, okay. Let me quickly mention. So in the UK, well, one of the impetus means like driving factors. So one of the impetuses for Brexit was the fact that a lot of people migrated from Romania and Bulgaria, and they were manual workers, so they could work with their hands. And the minimum wage in Romania and Bulgaria is substantially lower than it is in the UK. And all the British workers, well, some of the British workers got upset because these Romanians and Bulgarians can do just as good of a job as the Brits can, but they will charge a far lower wage. And this was bringing down...
That's a very good point because, well, if we're going to be honest and transparent about it, even here in Russia, I think it drives down the wages much lower. I mean, I'm not going to specify, certain countries, but anyway, once migrant workers who are, let's say, come from less, fortunate countries, so they have lower salary and therefore, it drives down the wages. And so the local people, they get mad about it because how come the salary is much lower now? Well, it's primarily because of these, migrant workers.
Yes.
In the same way that, well, it's not just the wages or the salary, but also in terms of culture clash.
You know what? When it comes to salary, I mean, if people are so mad about this, why don't you go and work? Because usually there aren't many like locals who are willing to do this sort of job.
Yeah. But that's another thing because like we don't want to only have immigrants to clean toilets and stuff like that. That's another thing. Because I think British people should be able to clean a toilet too. Like, come on, you don't need to employ an immigrant to clean a toilet. but it is true. Unfortunately, in more developed countries, the local population is unfortunately just lazy. And
I remember one of the stand-up comedians who was like, a lot of people are, complaining like immigrants are going to steal our jobs. Like, honey, if there is an immigrant who, without knowing a language as much, without connections, your posh education gets a job and you don't, that's going to say like that says something about yourself and not them.
Not that.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, a lot of people in the West, to be honest, are lazy. And I mean, it's a huge generalization, but generally speaking, a lot of people from lesser developed countries are willing to go the extra mile to feed their family. And in the West, well, we basically have everything served to us on a silver plate. And maybe that needs to change somehow. I don't know. Maybe that's a way of, I don't know how to make something fair, how to make it fair for... It's a big question, and it's but that's one of the reasons why Brexit happened. Essentially, was because of the wages.
I wonder if that's going to be easier now to kind of get a work permit there in the UK, because before that it was impossible to get. Impossible.
I think it'll be the same, to be honest with you. So basically now European citizens are they're basically on the same level as anyone else from the world. So if you're from India, it doesn't matter. It's now the same as an Italian. In some ways, it's actually fairer for the rest of the world in some ways. But the downside to this is that Brits can't just work freely in European Union countries. And it's quite annoying if you're a British citizen, but at least from the perspective of equality for other immigrants, at least now someone from India or Pakistan has the same rights as someone from Italy or from France. Do you think, or another question, do you think that the world would be better if there were no borders?
Oh, that's a, like a deep philosophical question.
Yeah, kind of hard-boiled. Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
maybe yes, maybe no.
On the one hand, it may be good in that we're able to visit each other's countries without, restrictions. But then again, if I'm going to be, pragmatic about it, I think we still need some borders because let's face it, we have differences in terms of cultural identities.
Yep.
And that's one of the reasons why there is a problem with immigration. As I've mentioned earlier, there's culture clash because the local culture, sometimes they find it difficult to accept the new culture that comes into their country, because especially if this person doesn't want to adapt. Yeah. So I know this is a very sensitive topic. For instance, like religion. Yeah, because I've seen this video on YouTube where I'm not gonna mention the religion, I guess, but basically this person was walking in the street, and then it's a local person, so it's British, and then he went to this area supposedly for that particular community, and he was or rather she dressed inappropriately in their eyes. And so this girl was criticized, like, why are you dressed like that? Because you shouldn't be walking around here, because this is our community and you should be dressed more appropriately. You see what I mean? It is true.
Humans, whether we like it or not, we're all animals and we all have tribal instincts, and we all, whether we like it or not, it's just an unfortunate reality of our existence. And even if you bring everyone together, at some point we're going to want to divide ourselves into little fractions. And
because even a country itself, it has its like little groups, if you know what I mean, like I mean,
community.
Yeah, even in the school playground you have the goths, you have the the emos, you have the
metalheads,
the metalheads, and the
sounds like a school from 2007.
Nostalgia.
Well, everyone. Well, so I guess from that perspective, but I mean, my opinion would be that, well, you have to organize public services, and it's kind of difficult to do that if we don't have borders. So
and there should be a kind of a security check or background check. If we don't have any borders, all right, it's great, something great, but you don't know who is coming to your country, or you don't know who is going to be a potential danger to you or to your country.
Right.
So there should be a kind of background check or criminal check, whatever it is.
Yeah, sure. All right, well, let's move on to the juicy visas section. I know a lot of our listeners will be interested in knowing what's going on. So,
as I've mentioned before the podcast started, that's my sole point at the moment. Has been for the last 2 years.
Maybe our listeners want to go to America. Maybe they want to go to England or Canada or somewhere in the English-speaking world. And of course, it's quite difficult as a Russian citizen to get access to such countries. Katya, you have obviously a lot of experience with...
I wouldn't say a lot.
Well, with America, okay.
With America, I do have some experience.
So what was the process obtaining an American visa? What did you have to do?
So why don't we first of all, we need to remember that there are different types of visas. So I can only tell about my type of visa, which is called J1 visa, because I have 3 visas to the US. All of them were J1, which means I was an exchange student or a visiting professor. So some sort of exchange or visiting professional, which means that my visa, first of all, was very limited in time. So I had my visa only for the duration of my contract, which was 9 months. So let's say 9 months, and like 6 months or something. So the process, my first visa was really easy to get because I did it through Fulbright, the grant that I got. So basically you just send all the documents. Then one day, all 30 of us went to the embassy, got our fingerprints.
Okay, so the embassy in Moscow. So there's only...
back in the day. It was in Moscow. Then...
Well, where is it now? Is there a consulate where our listeners can go to?
No. So my second visa, I was lucky to get it in Yekaterinburg, but then all of the embassies, American embassies in Russia, closed down. So we are now officially what is called a homeless nation, meaning we don't have a single consul in the country. So which is a funny term, right? Like homeless nation.
Yeah.
Which means that now if you want to apply for a visa, first you need to decide what country you want to apply in. So, and if you change your mind, that's going to be difficult then. So you choose a country where you want to apply, try to look at the forums, whether, they have a high visa decline rate or visa approval rate. So then you create, your profile on the website, you pay your fees, which are they're rather high. I think for tourist visa though, to the US, it's now around $160.
200.
Around 200.
Well, so have you tried to go to the States?
No, but my father just went there like 4 times with business visa.
Oh, okay. So what was
business
his
visa?
With business visa?
Did he tell you what the process was? What did he have to do?
Actually, his company dealt all the process.
I love when this happens.
Regarding the visa. So he just gave his passport and just collected back in 20 days time.
Oh, that's amazing.
Wow.
And they gave like 10 years visa for him. So
oh wow.
Yeah.
Lucky guy.
So it's a business visa. So he went like 4 times in there. Like,
but he has to only work for a specific organization.
It was kind of a inspecting job. The first one, and the second one is kind of a purchase something, this service or a kind of material from there. So he didn't need to be there to work. So he was kind of an inspector.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's how it works.
So dealing with, so it's one way for our listeners to get a visa. Well, if you want to go to the States, you'd have to best way to do it is via an employer. And I guess you would have to go outside of the country.
Oh, yeah,
perhaps.
totally.
Yeah. Or you just get an invitation from a company.
Yeah. Right.
Well, actually, I would say that it's easier to get a tourist visa because, employers have to pay for that. Who wants to pay for your visa and everything, all the expenses?
When you apply for a tourist visa, do you have to show that you have a certain amount of money in your bank account?
Yes. So you have to show that you have a certain amount in your bank account. But unlike applying for a Schengen visa for Russians, when you apply for an American visa, you do not have to, actually never show or never have the tickets and the booking, because that would be considered as pressure on the consul. Immediate denial.
Oh, interesting.
So you have only some of your plan in your hand, show that you have enough money, show that you have some proof of, you show your proof of employment.
Yeah.
And you're going to come back.
Yeah, so they need to see that you're going to come back, basically. So you pay for your fee and then you pray to all the gods possible to actually get an appointment date. Mm-hmm. As of now, most of the country, there aren't that many countries that would accept Russians at the moment, but I think the nearest dates are about 2023, like February 2023.
Oh, that's terrible.
Sometimes, if you know the country where you want to apply and you're lucky, sometimes there might be a cancellation. So they say, one spot available, next week.
Maybe have an opening, you can come again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then again, let's say you want to apply for an American visa in Italy. And you can totally do that, but you need an Italian visa to go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ken, have you had any experience applying for? Have you ever tried to go to the States or to England?
No.
Well, obviously, a lot of people from the Philippines go to the States, and there's a big Filipino. Do you know anyone who's migrated to America from?
Actually, the ex-wife of my uncle.
Yeah.
Although we're not close, but she was able to make it there because she got married again to an American citizen, and. Although it, of course, it also took some time because, it's not like, in a snap of a finger, she could move there. Mm-hmm. But I think she's the only relative I have in America.
Yeah.
But as far as applying for a visa, the only experience that I have is for work visa because I've never really applied for a tourist visa because most of the countries that I have visited so far have been, visa free for Filipino passport holders.
Well, I'm looking right now at a map of visa-free countries for Filipino.
Yeah, I was just about to ask, what countries can you go visa-free?
That's interesting because that's the problem when you are. Well, I'm not even offended, and I honestly say it to my friends and even my students that but I might be slapped in the face by my fellow Filipinos. If I say this,
they're kind of far away right now.
They won't be able to slap me literally. So, third world countries, developing countries, call it whatever you like. The problem is there are only limited countries that they can go to that are visa free. Yeah. So, for instance, the Philippines, there are only 66 countries that we can go to, mostly in Asia, Africa, and then Central America.
Well, I can see here that. Well, you taught in Kazakhstan before. I can see here it says visa not required for, but I guess for work purposes.
It's recent because before Filipinos couldn't even go to Kazakhstan even for tourism, purposes, we have to have a visa.
Yeah.
And of course, a work visa is different from just, okay, so if I were to go to Kazakhstan now, of course I can because it's for tourism purposes. But for work, definitely I still have to get a work visa.
Yeah.
And that's the only experience I have to get a work visa. Nothing about, for tourism.
I sometimes I'm okay with applying for visas and everything. I just wish it was easier and preferably less expensive.
Yeah. It is kind of silly how much paperwork is involved.
I mean, right. And when I applied for my recent visa, which I didn't get, to the US, I had to pay an additional fee because it's like exchange professor visa. So in total, it was $300.
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't make an appointment.
And by the way,
so it's gone.
When you had to apply for your visas, did you have to get apostilles and paperwork and stuff like that?
I needed that for my visa application to Kazakhstan. I needed my transcript of records to have that, stamp.
And you can't, let's say if you're in a country already, you can't leave the country. Well, you have to leave the country to get an apostille.
Yes.
Isn't that true?
Yes.
Because there is this, I think it's called the Higher Treaty, something like that. This treaty means that if you get an apostille in one country, it will be recognized in all the other countries which are signatories to this treaty. But it also means that if you want to, let's say you're in a country and you want to continue living in the country, you want to get permanent residency, means you need to leave the country to get your, for instance, birth certificate apostilled, and then you have to come back, and it's just a nightmare. Why?
So expensive.
We live in the digital age. Why can't?
Right.
Why can't just countries just communicate with each other?
That's what you call bureaucracy.
Yes. And another word for our listeners is red tape. Red tape means bureaucracy. So there's so much red tape around this, and it's just a nightmare.
And then, if you are from a non-English speaking country, you have to translate all the documents, and then again put some sort of apostille or verification that it's a translation performed by a professional translator. You can't translate it on your own and everything, and it's all so expensive. My God,
it's a nightmare doing it.
Well, wait, what about Turkey? What countries can you go to without a visa?
Actually,
I have a huge map over here.
Actually, nearly all the countries in Asian continent except China and Australia, we can't go there without visa. Australia, China, the other countries are all okay, and most of the countries in South America, we can go there without visa. Canada and US they want a visa from us.
Yeah.
None of the European countries we can go without visa. Yeah. Only a couple of them, I guess, like Albania or Andorra.
Yeah, I can see over here. Yeah, it's Albania.
So,
is it easy to get a visa though?
Come again, sorry?
Is it easy to get a visa? Is it fast process? Is it easy?
Schengen areas, yeah.
Yeah, but it depends. It depends on your purpose of visit. If you have a relative in a Schengen area, Schengen zone countries, that's kind of like 4 or 5 days process.
Amazing.
So they just check, all right, the relatives are available in that country, so you can go free to go.
And I guess Germany has a special relationship with Turkey.
Germany is the easiest one for European countries. So if you want to go there for study or for work, and if you have a solid proof that you can support yourself, that's easy to go there.
Yeah.
But as far as I remember, I went to UK for a business trip with a business visa, and it took like two months to get the visa.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
British visas are so long to get. I got my tourist one. It took like 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, that was like
that's awful.
2 months before Brexit. It was before Brexit.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
To all three of you. What was it like to get a Russian visa? You have a Russian work visa.
It's a lot of paperwork.
It's a lot of paperwork.
And thankfully, the Big Apple School helped arrange most of it for us. Thank you, school. It's a headache for everyone.
So you also had to get some documents apostilled and so on.
I didn't, luckily, not for a work visa.
I didn't do that.
Not for a work visa, but you do need it if you want to get a residence permit here in
okay.
Russia. But But what I had to, tell me.
And you also need to get, a negative test result of HIV.
Exactly. That was the first thing. So you had to
that was the first thing.
Oh, you had to do it as well.
I had it. Yeah.
So it's in England. It's really expensive doing these things. Obviously, the NHS provides free healthcare for emergency situations and whatnot. But if you need to get a HIV test, you have to do that privately. And I was looking everywhere, all across London.
Interesting.
And I found a place that the cheapest place, but it was £80, which is
80.
Yeah, 80 quid just to get
my God.
HIV test. And
whereas this weekend in Novosibirsk, you can get it for free.
Yeah.
And several times, like not per month, but I think like every month you can get it for free.
Yeah. So I had to do
80
that.
Pounds, it's a lot.
So I had to do the HIV test. And
I paid like 10 or 11 US dollars or something.
Lucky you.
Yeah, that was all right. That was all right.
Did you have to do it
Bearable.
in Kazakhstan?
I did it in Kazakhstan.
So you applied for the visa in Kazakhstan. Did you have
No. I applied in Thailand, but before leaving for Thailand, when I was still in Kazakhstan, I had to get my HIV test there.
Oh, right.
Which was actually really cheap. I just can't remember it anymore.
I think because Kazakhstan, they also have like quite affordable prices for those sort of testing like we do here.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh, interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah, but you don't need an HIV test if you're coming to Russia on a tourist visa. But if you're coming here for longer than, I guess, or for work purposes, then you need HIV test. I guess maybe is the Russian healthcare system overloaded with
We have
HIV.
an epidemic. More than 1% of the whole population of Russia is HIV positive. So I think that's why.
Yeah, I guess they just want to control it somehow. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we needed to get HIV tested. And if you move here, if you want to get a residence permit here, it's a whole other ball game. Getting the work visa,
I can imagine.
Getting the work visa it's somewhat complicated, but it's manageable, especially if you have an employer helping you out. But if you want to get a residence permit, that's just a whole other. There's so much paperwork. You have to get criminal records checked.
That's also
that's
reasonable.
okay. That's reasonable. But you have to get it apostilled and verified translation. Then you have to do which I kind of agree with. You have to do the exam in Russian language, history, and
again, that's
law.
the same in any country.
Yeah. No, it is. It is.
Well, I think you just have to be grateful that it's not Italy, because they have thousands and thousands and thousands of years of history, which is kind of taking more time to learn than Russian history.
To be honest, I'm not actually complaining about the Russian requirements for it, because I think it's absolutely reasonable to have these requirements. It's just that the process takes forever if you're from a non-former Soviet country. Because
that was what I was about to comment on, because I have a lot of friends who are from Kazakhstan and they got Russian citizenship, and it was not.
It wasn't easy. I was told. I mean, there was one who had to give like really thick, like a mountain of documents, which I found, interesting, because I thought it would be easy coming from a former Soviet country.
The documents, yes, but at least you don't have to take an exam, either in language or in history. So, but there is some sort of requirement of how long you have to live in the country and so on.
Yeah. Well, Russians can work in most former Soviet countries, which is except for the Baltic states. Which, so if you wanted to go to Kyrgyzstan, you can go there, or I guess Georgia has a different arrangement. I know a lot of Russians are moving to Georgia. You can live there for 1 year.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Well, I heard that you can live as a Russian citizen. You can live in Georgia for 1 year.
Same with Turkish.
Yeah.
And Turkish.
Same
cool.
with Turkish. Yeah. You can just go there with your ID card without your passport. And
interesting.
You can stay 1 year, up to 1 year, if you want to settle or if you want to work with a company. 1 year free. You don't need to do anything.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, but if we talk about the types of visas, so we mentioned the work visa, in my case, there was exchange professor or exchange student visa.
Yeah.
We have a student visa in America. It's like F1.
So you have the H1, the F1. What else do you have?
So there is K1 visa to America. It's the fiance visa.
Yeah.
There is a spouse one, is a different one, by the way.
Oh, just for our listeners.
So K1 is just for fiancés, but then you have 90 days to get married officially.
It's easier to get married outside of America, from what I've heard. And then if you want to, if you want to marry an American, get married in maybe.
It's kind of debatable because then you have to apply for a different sort of visa, and the spouse visa, they have a different sort of rule. You have to be married for at least a certain amount of time, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And that would be, and the type of visa depends on, your significant other type of visa. Because if, for example, I'm on J1 visa, my fiance would need, my spouse would need J2 visa. If you're an F1 visa, your spouse would be F2 visa.
Oh my.
So it's a whole different
thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's a labyrinth of.
Yep. So it's all different. Types. But there's one type of visa, one new type of visa that is getting so popular in different countries, which is a digital nomad visa.
Yes, I was just about to mention that. Yes, actually. Yeah. So, but for some reason, not that many countries offer such a
I
visa.
think it's a relatively new concept. So
After
that's why
COVID,
it takes time. Yeah, I think that it got popularity, before COVID, but at that time, it was not that widespread. And then during COVID, not many people had an opportunity to travel. So now more and more countries start to look into that. And I know I read some news just 3 days ago that Argentina is about to, make this new sort of visa. It's still, it's still
under works,
it's still under work, and everything. There are no details as to whether you need to have some minimum, income to apply for that or anything. But they already say that it's going to be for 6 months with a chance to update it, and prolong it for 6 more months. So that's kind of, interesting.
I actually like that idea. Although when I checked the requirements and then I saw you have to pay for the taxes, and I thought, I wonder how much, how many % you have to pay for your taxes, because you could go to some really fancy places, such as Germany. Yeah. But I don't know how much you have to pay for the tax.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I know Europe, not that many countries actually offer it. I know Germany, Czech Republic, Croatia. I believe Portugal offers one as well. There's a few countries. Well, definitely in Southeast Asia. So Thailand, Vietnam,
Indonesia.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean,
Argentina is soon to be added to the list.
Yeah. I don't understand why more countries don't just offer it. I mean, you're not exactly.
It's still new.
I think one reason is that it's still new. Second, for example, I have a student who went to Spain.
Yeah.
She was on a tourist visa, but she was still working there. So she said, why would I need to apply for any sort of like digital nomad visa if I can just do that? I can still work while being on a tourist visa.
Well, if you get caught, then you get in trouble, no?
I don't know. But I mean, who checks that or something? I mean, so yeah, it's all, bureaucracy. You have to really look into that. Like, what does that suggest? Like having a digital nomad visa?
Yeah. Well, a lot of people do illegally live in other countries, live and work in other countries on tourist visas. Yeah. But if you want to deal with the authorities, if you need,
that's true.
Then you need, or if you need to get a bank account, which you need to in some countries. Then
it's like when I was on a J1 visa in America, it was really specifically said, like, you are not allowed to have any sort of income while in the US apart from your employer. That's it. They found out you have any other income, oh God, you're screwed. Yeah. So that's why, for example, even for American citizens, they now check your like PayPal, Venmo. If you have more than $600 annual income or some sort of income coming through your PayPal or Venmo,
you're being inspected.
You have to file that.
It's much stricter.
Oh yeah, America's very strict, but it's some reason it's not strict if you come in through the Mexican border. Like,
then you see,
then you don't.
While we were talking about all the visa stuff earlier, I was thinking like, why complicate your life? Just go to Mexico and go to the border and then enter and say that you're a refugee or some kind of
It's getting stricter over there now.
Yeah, although right now, yes.
So, I mean, obviously it's not easy if you're in America illegally. Obviously it's not easy because a lot of states, California is pretty easy.
You mean staying illegally?
Staying illegally, yeah.
Well, I have, oh my God. If I had $1 for every time I was asked a question, why don't you stay there in the US? So I would be really rich right now. But they're like, you could have stayed illegally. I'm like, look, if you stay illegally, I mean, people can do that and so on. But if you're caught, you're deported.
Next? You don't know that,
You're not allowed to enter the country for 10 years.
Yes.
It's strict.
Is it something I'm willing to risk? Hell no.
Plus you're on a blacklist.
I lived in Las Vegas, as some of our listeners might know. And I met a few illegal immigrants, and my neighbors came from El Salvador, and they were all funny people, and I met a lot of people through them. And I met this one guy who became my friend, and he was a legal immigrant in America, and he basically could not receive any funds in a normal way. When he would receive a check, he would have to go to a check cashing facility and
have crazy fees.
Pay a huge commission, like 20% commission, and basically you have to receive a salary at 80% of his actual salary. And
I guess it always comes down to what you're leaving behind and whether you're ready for this sort of risk and everything. You have nothing to like lose and everything. Okay, fine, but last year, for example, or like 2 years ago, it was brutal in America. The ICE was just getting everyone and deported like so many people. Like, oh my God. So I think that doing things legally is just, it makes you calm. Like, you know what to do. You know that you're doing it the right way and everything.
Yeah. Well, I think one way to cut down on illegal immigration would just be to simplify the immigration procedures in the first place. And if the immigration procedures are simplified, then there should be no excuse to illegally migrate somewhere. And if you do illegally migrate somewhere, then just apply for refugee status.
Right.
Well, just apply for refugee status. Like, come on, that's a huge step.
Some countries, it's not too difficult.
I mean, it's the thing is that it's not difficult doing that. You can easily apply for a refugee status. You're not allowed to go back to your home country. That's
of course, yeah.
I mean, a friend of mine, she asked for asylum. She's a refugee now in America. She's been there for 5 years. All these 5 years, she's still waiting for the trial and everything. Yeah. But all these 5 years, she hasn't seen her family. Her mom has applied for American visa 4 times, denied.
Oh, that's terrible. Yeah.
And the last time she was directly told, look, while your daughter is in there, there's no chance we're going to let you in.
And I guess, as an asylum, is she allowed to work? Well, I guess she has to be allowed to.
She has a work, but the first year, you're not allowed to do anything. So you get into the doctor.
How do you live if...
Right.
You either do that illegally or you have some sort of relative. So she had an aunt. So she was the lucky one. So, but after a year, she got a work permit, a driving license, all that. So now she has almost the same rights as a citizen, only that she can't vote, do stuff like that. But but you're saying, like, that's it. You're closing the door. Like, you can't get back to your country. You can't see your family unless you meet on another territory in another country. But then until she has the trial, she's not allowed to leave the country.
Fair enough. Yeah. But also, I guess it's kind of tricky if you're seeking asylum and you're from halfway across the world. Whereas if you're in Mexico seeking asylum in America, that's one thing because it's a neighboring country. But if you're from, I don't know, Afghanistan, would it be, for instance, worth going all the way to America?
Well, if you're from Afghanistan, it's going to be worth going anywhere. But anywho.
Yeah, that's a pretty scary situation right now.
A lot of people also told me, like, you could have applied for an asylum, like in that country or in that country. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to not have a chance to say goodbye to my parents.
Right.
Like my mom now, like she's almost 60. I do not know how much she has left. I mean, life, it's life.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to not have an opportunity to say goodbye. Like, that's too much. Yeah. I'm not ready.
Yes.
So yeah,
so it's not. I guess it's not as easy as
it's easy to apply, but it's not easy to deal with.
Yeah, after you've received the status. All right. Well, deep subject. Well, guys, if you have any, we're not immigration lawyers, so we can't give you immigration advice. But if you have any questions or suggestions, or you just have a question about a language point in this podcast, please let us know in the comments section. We'll obviously love to hear from you. And if you want to find some more podcasts like this one, just check out the Big Apple School website, which is www.bigappleschool.com. And there you can also find other articles and other interesting stuff. And also do subscribe to our social media platforms, including Telegram, where you can receive very frequent updates as to what's going on here at the school, and you can receive interesting language articles, etc. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
See ya.